Well, welcome to the lecture on differentiation and advertising. We're going to be spending the next few minutes going over some basic concepts about differentiation and then show how advertising decisions, which are often linked to product differentiation, are made and why it's important as a manager to make wise advertising decisions. So we'll do a problem walkthrough here at the end. Okay, so we have product differentiation. What is all that about? Well, basically, what you're looking at is making your product or service different from your competitors or even products or services that you offer within your organization. Why is that important? Well, you want your customers, your target market, you want them to pick your product or service. And again, you may also have differentiation within your own organization so that your target market is, again, picking the correct product or service. So for example, I'll pick on Apple. Apple has a couple different types of, actually have like 3 different types of iPads. You have a mini, you have kind of a top end, and then you have an entry-level iPad. So they want to differentiate those different iPads within their target markets, and each one of those iPads probably serves, and I would most likely would ensure that each one of those iPads are serving different markets by the way Apple has positioned them. This also happens in healthcare as well. Products are positioned and they are differentiated to serve different markets. So setting yourself apart from the competition to gain business is really what it's all about. So let's take, for example, robotic surgery. This is a big topic right now in a lot of areas of the country. I would be surprised if you haven't heard about robotic surgery because, again, it's advertised pretty heavily. Well, with health systems that are offering robotic surgery, they are trying to differentiate their service, that surgery. And with the machine itself, there's also differentiation. You can look at differentiation in 2 different modes. You have attribute and information-based differentiation. So what's attribute-based differentiation? Well, quite simply, it's pretty much what it says. What are the attributes of this product or service that make it different from other ones? So let's say in this case of this amazingly complicated robot here, maybe you have more of these little arms on here than your competitor. God only knows what all these various arms do. I have not seen this used in surgery myself. I'm guessing maybe some of you have, though. Or maybe the arms move quicker, or maybe these little tips down here are smaller. Again, that is attribute differentiation. What would be different from another robot? And it could be applied to a service as well. Just off the top of my head, ER service. A lot of organizations promote the fact that you have a 15-minute wait time. That would be an attribute that you would have that would differentiate yourself over maybe a competitor's ER. You have quicker times before you see a doctor or a nurse practitioner. Okay, so we have that with our robot. Now, I also talked about the other type of differentiation, which is information-based. And what that is, that's a little bit more complicated. It's really what your customers know about you, your product, or your service. With information-based differentiation, you may be focusing on attributes that are different than your competitor, or you may just be simply stating facts about your product or service. Let me explain. This is where it kind of gets a little foggy. But I'll pick on we'll do robotic surgery, but then I'll also pick on aspirin. Aspirin is pharmaceutically identical, whether you buy it generic or whether you buy Bayer aspirin. But Bayer will spend a lot of money in advertising telling you about the wonderful benefits of aspirin, which really is a miracle drug. I mean, they're finding out new stuff every day. And a lot of things that I learn about aspirin are often promoted by the major drug companies who are doing the research and have the bucks to spend on advertising. So let's say we know about the benefits. This has been around for quite a while for cardiovascular disease, or especially cardiac disease. Wonderful benefits there. Many people are on low-dose aspirin regimens. Also, there's all kinds of information pouring in about reduced colon cancer, reduced breast cancer metastasis, wonderful things. So Bayer, for example, does a huge advertising campaign about low-dose aspirin, especially right now because this has been proven for cardiac health. They even have little bottles with hearts on them. Now, when you go there, you think, oh, that's great. Bayer aspirin helps keep my heart healthy. My doctor told me to do it. I'm buying Bayer aspirin. But any aspirin would do the trick. But what Bayer has done is they've used information-based differentiation so the consumer has more information about their product than somebody else's product, even though the other product may be perfectly identical. So that's information-based, where you can have similar products, but one company is promoting that and explaining those information about that product in more detail. And you gravitate towards that. Now, what is another name for that? Well, you could also look at that as branding. Branding is a way of encapsulating that information, so a customer who has been receiving information about a brand then no longer thinks about it, and they simply go, I buy Bayer aspirin and that's all I buy, and I don't remember all the reasons why, I just know there's a bunch of reasons, and they grab the Bayer aspirin. I'm sure we all know people like that, or even ourselves. I do that as well. I know there are certain products that have wonderful features and benefits, but I just know historically over the years, they've never let me down. I buy that brand without question. Brand loyalty kind of fitting into that. So again, that's on the information-based differentiation. Again, you can also promote with information. You can promote those attributes as well. So let's say we're going back to that robotic surgery example. Okay, so maybe you're using the best, greatest robot in the world, and I hear this Da Vinci robot all the time mentioned. So even though I don't know a lot about robots, I know that, like Da Vinci is the best, because I have heard that advertised over and over again about the wonderful benefits of robotic surgery, which are it's less invasive, you have quicker heal times, you have less, you don't have huge scars anymore. Wonderful, all these wonderful benefits. That's information. I'm receiving information about that Da Vinci robot. Now, there could be you have a Da Vinci robot, there could be a Einstein robot out there, and it may do all those things as well, but I don't know about that. So Da Vinci has done a great job with differentiating themselves through information over any other kind of surgical robot. So that, in my perspective, especially in our market here, that's the only robot I've ever heard of. So, all right. So we have talked about product differentiation. We have talked about the two types of differentiation, which is attribute. Those are the things, kind of the physical or the more tangible things that make it different. And then you have information-based, and that is what your customers, your target market, knows about that product. It may be a true difference, or as a physical attribute, or some attribute to your service, or again, it could be just more information about that product that they know, like in the Bayer aspirin situation, even though they're identical, people know more information about Bayer aspirin than they do, let's say, Kroger or Walgreens aspirin, so they tend to choose the Bayer aspirin, in greater volume, and Bayer, of course, is rewarded with that with higher margins. Okay, excellent. All right, now, one of the things, obviously, we've kind of interweaving here is communication, getting out that word about how different your product is. And that's often done through advertising. Now, as a healthcare manager, you're going to be making decisions about advertising. I know I make them here in my job on a weekly, almost weekly basis on what we do with advertising. It's very important that as a manager in differentiating your products that you make wise and prudent decisions about advertising. So let's do a quick walkthrough on an advertising scenario. Okay, you have a hospital system and they anticipate spending $300,000 on an advertising that campaign that they think is going to increase. They have predicted that it's going to increase bed days by 650. Now, the marketing department, in doing their due diligence, has come up with that some more information that each additional bed day is going to yield $2,100 in additional revenue. Yay, right? But your costs are going to increase as well by $1,700, which is to be expected. If you think about it, any increase in volume is going to have an increase in your cost. In this case, you're going to have nurses working more hours, more housekeeping, et cetera, et cetera. All right, so it looks good, right? Why don't we just throw a bunch of money at advertising every time that we want to increase business? Well, let's look at what this campaign will do. Will profits go up? And then if so, how much profits will go up? So let's start with some of the basics. What do we know? And I'll pick blue color here. So we know that this thing is going to cost us right off the bat. It is going to cost us $300,000. Okay, all right, but we'll make it up in volume, right? Let's take a look at it. Okay, so we know that we're going to increase bed days by 650, and we have predicted that the revenue will increase by $2,100 for each one of those bed days. So that'd be just a simple multiplication. But hold on, wait, we have some expenses in here. We have, for each one of those bed days, we have $1,700. So let's take account for that $1,700 in expenses. Okay, so we're just going to take it off that daily additional revenue that we're going to make. I'm going to put some parentheses in here so we have a kind of an order of operations. All right, so I got my 650. And now I'm going to subtract the two of those, and I get a $400 difference. That's great. Okay, so I'm going to make some money there. At least my expenses weren't more than the daily projected revenue that I was going to make, so that's good. So let's see. Let's just work out this math. So the 650 times 400 equals $260,000. Yay, right? Hold on. Not so good. If you remember, that campaign, those advertising guys sold us a $300,000 package. We're only going to make $260,000 on this. We're actually going to be in the hole. We're going to lose money on this campaign by $40,000. Wow. So this is a great exercise in showing that throwing money at advertising isn't always the best thing. Now, obviously these numbers could be worked in a different fashion. Let's say if my costs weren't quite as much, if I brought those down to $500 per bed day and I was still bringing in $2,100, obviously I will be making some money and I probably want to do the campaign. So, there are some variables in here. What this illustration shows, though, is look at the variables. Try to identify as many of those variables as you can. It will never, trust me, it will never be perfect. Things could surprise you either way, as they have done me. We have had wonderful campaigns and we have had stinkers. And we thought we had all of the various, the variables projected as much as possible, but sometimes you just never know. But that's part of the due diligence as a manager that you want to do, to try to seek out as many of those variables as possible when you try to formulate a decision, especially in this case with advertising. Excellent. All right, so we've gone over differentiation, we've talked about the two types, and we've also done a walkthrough in advertising. I hope that you have found this lecture helpful. Again, using a little bit different format here as I kind of evolve into different software systems for our lectures. And as always, thank you for watching.